Hello, Global Village. Excuse me, that should be Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fielka. We want to thank Rob Grant for hosting us on his station. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's December 22, 2021. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Marv Newland. Where in the heck you calling in from, Marv?
I'm calling in from Maine Island, Mayne. It's halfway between Vancouver, Canada, and Victoria, Canada, in the Salish Sea.
It is truly an honor. I've enjoyed your stuff, your animation, your creativity for so many years. And the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being? To love what you're doing.
I like that answer. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
The best form, the most reliable form of information is on what I call on the drum, which probably other people call on the drum. You get it from various sources, and mainly it comes from people who are informed and people who you can depend on. At my age, I know people and I can depend on them because their track record's good. So for me, that's the best form of information.
That's called pattern recognition. I like that, but I want to clarify that word.
Pattern recognition, William Gibson. He's a good friend of mine living in Vancouver.
Oh, how cool. Well, he got that from Marshall McLuhan, who stole it from somebody else. So it's a long line. Pattern recognition leads to comprehensive awareness. But let's go back to your word on the drum. That's spelled D-R-U-M?
Yes.
Wow, I like that term, on the drum.
It comes from ancient tribes communicating with each other. When they couldn't use smoke signals, they could use the drum, right? And the drum would carry the sound to the next drum, and then that drum would move it to the next drum, and so on, so that you had a drum network.
That is really good. That's another guy McLuhan studied with a lot was Edmund Carpenter. He wrote a bunch of anthropology books that are sort of pop and fun and talk about all kinds of things like that. In fact, there's a great joke there. The indigenous Indian guide is walking the white explorer through the woods, and the explorer thinks they're lost, and he goes, "I think we're lost." And the Indian guide goes, "We not lost, teepee lost." Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Ooh, you're asking a loaded question, because I don't know what you can see behind me, but this room that I'm in has boxes, binders, drawers, bookshelves, CDs, information, visual, written information, moving pictures, still pictures, original art, everything. I've now forgotten your question.
Yeah, well, no, that's good. Why do humans collect information?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. But I do know my closest friends are information collectors, and they not only they collect it, they like to discuss it. They find all the most stupid nuances about it.
We have like-minded friends. I like that, stupid nuances. I think they're probably smart and stupid nuances. But Marv, it's interesting because I'm grateful for the fact that some of my questions you can actually just say, "I don't know." Feel free. It's not like I'm trying to put you on the spot and test you. But the next question about information is, do you think this need or want for humans to collect information is more innate or more invented? I know some of these questions at the beginning are more one way or the other. I know it's both and it depends, but you're just sort of hunch. Do you think it's more innate or more invented to collect info?
Innate.
Yeah.
But it's innate for a certain portion of the population and not everyone.
Yeah.
Because intelligence isn't handed out evenly. And you need intelligence to first recognize that you want to gather information, and second, to be able to process the information. Third, to not process the information thinking that you know for certain what it's all about. To be a bit reserved and a little bit skeptical about your collection and your the way you analyze the collected information.
Very good. Do thoughts create emotions?
Okay. Yes and no. Sights for me are the most emotional. Seeing someone, something, that's what hits me hardest. Yeah. Sometimes music.
Yeah, neuroscientists, some say that sight is the most dominant sense. And I like that because my questions use words. We think words work, but they don't always work. And when I say, do thoughts create emotions? It's easy to say, well, both emotions create thoughts, or yes or no, but you substituted a new word. And that's what I like, because I'm trying to reinvent new metaphors and new questions. So you sort of said, seeing creates emotions, the sight, the sense of sight. That's good.
Do I have time to tell a quick little story?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. So my significant other, Victoria, took me to San Francisco to see a Giants baseball game because I'm a big Giants fan. And I was interested. It was a rare trip. We haven't traveled at all for many months, as I guess many people can attest to. Anyway, we go to the stadium. I'm walking up the little pathway to the door to the open area. And I walked, and as soon as I pushed past the doorway, I got weak in the knees, and I was overcome with like, oh my God, I'm here. Oh, look at this. Whoa. Now, first, I'm a stupid baseball fan, and, but that was a powerful piece of emotion that came from seeing and being in this place. And I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't think I was that lowbrow, but I guess I am. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I like to be happy. I don't trust meaning. I think we put meaning on to different aspects of our lives, objects, people, music, so on and so forth. But what's our track record? Or if we say this means this, and a whole bunch of people agree, is that good? Or if a whole bunch of people disagree, is that good? Like Galileo, the astronomer, he went, oh, the Earth goes around the sun. That was, no, it doesn't. And, he was right.
No, I love that. I.F. Stone says, the truth as I see it.
Okay. I'm a big fan of I.F. Stone. I loved his stuff.
Yeah.
He was great. I liked him tearing out sections of there's a good thing about information. He'd read all this stuff in columns and news and so on, but he'd just take out the essential parts, and
Yeah, that is good. He also has a line I use all the time. Typos are worse than fascism. Okay, Marv, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
think again.
Oh, that is good.
Oh.
I got that from McLuhan. I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. So that's good. I love that. Think again. Can humans think without language?
Yeah, what a question. That's one of the best questions anyone's ever asked me. Jeepers creepers. I wonder if without language, it's not thinking, it's reaction. That I can't believe you could ponder something, measure, evaluate without language. Maybe. But early humans certainly must have in some way or other.
Yeah. And we don't know if there was some, McLuhan basically says there's 3 words: spoken word, printed word, and electronic word. So free to that, there was grunting and gesturing. So that language created with grunting and gesturing could have been as sophisticated as texting or anything. We don't know. We think we've progressed, but we might just, everything is, the same always.
We've progressed away from our connection with our environment, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not, but we don't know. Like when people go outside, they don't know where east, west, north, and south is. When the ancients went out, it's just like you said, we're not lost. The teepee's lost.
Teepee lost.
Yeah.
So are people, your observations of people, are people more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
A majority are feeling beings. A minority are thinking beings.
Yeah.
Well, it's that way. It's just that way.
Yeah, Chomsky talks about thinking and language, and it really brings up, he says language is a culture. It's a community. It's a lot more than words. What do you do when language doesn't work, when language breaks down?
Draw a picture.
Oh, that is good. I love that. It's beautiful.
When the first time I traveled in Japan, I made a little booklet, and I drew a cup of coffee and a toilet and a glass of water, a plate of food, blah 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 blah. That way, if I'm somewhere, I can just point. I want this.
That is smart.
Yeah.
So these 2 questions come from Alan Turing, 1950. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Well, I can't believe that we're so compartmentalized that we would not, that thinking wouldn't be affected by the soul. So, Gerry, that means you believe in the soul, or just the person you're quoting believes in the soul?
Well, first of all, in answering that question, Marv, you asked 2 questions. So you win. This series is all about inventing new questions. And so You know, the Irish, you go up to the Irish and you go, hey, you guys answer questions with questions. And they went, we do, eh? So no, we'll just move on. That was good. Good. We'll, you know, a lot of these things will come back around.
Okay.
The other Alan Turing question is, can machines think?
That's another good, I mean, you know, I've heard this question, of course, and they're mechanical. Yeah, they can probably think, you know, in quotes, as to the level that some human beings are capable of thinking. But it's black and white, it's mechanical, it's off and on, it's a combination of offs and ons. They absorb information, they log information, and then they analyze it, I guess. And that's where their so-called thinking comes from. I wonder, I guess they can think, but I'm wondering if they're capable of inventing. I'm sure there are a bunch of people watching this right now going, this guy doesn't know anything. But
well, yeah, it depends, Marv. It depends on what you mean by inventing, because, you know I have a friend who's a really good musician, and he wants to, you know, write a software that composes music. And, you know, I'm in the experimental film world, and I thought, geez, 20 years ago, they should have been having computers make experimental films, because most experimental films look so random anyways. A computer could just jam a bunch of pictures together and go, wow, that was a great experimental film. And then
Whitney did that.
Huh?
John Whitney and those fellows all were working with computers and experimental films.
Oh, John Whitney's films are the great computer animation, but I'm saying that random factor, you know, they specifically worked with, yeah, that's a really good example. That's actually a great comeback to my thing about why hasn't there been more films made with computers. But anyways, I think what you got at, which is important, is how we define what thinking is. Can machines think? And people have answered. I just started asking this question recently, and people go, well, they can think like machines, but they can't think like humans necessarily. So then what does it mean? What does it mean to be a human and think? Well, then we're putting it in words. So then we think we're defining it. You can't define anything. You can have, like, I think Lily Tomlin said it best, reality's just a collective hunch. Okay. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
Consciousness. I don't even know. I mean, the definition of consciousness. I guess we're conscious right now, right?
Well,
or
yeah.
am I asleep and this is the dream? And it's, you know, I have to talk with you again in real life in a few hours when I get out of bed. You know? I don't know.
No, it's a heavy thing to try to define conscious and then consciousness. So now we'll just move on. That was good. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Light.
There's a poet, Audre Lorde. She said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
For dismantling the master's house?
That's a good question, because when I give these cute quotes before the question, it's up to you. You can apply it. or you don't have to. It's just a thought. And then the question is, what new tool do you suggest? So you put it into the context you want. You can say in dismantling the master's house, or just a new tool in general.
Well, a new tool. I'm a pen and paper guy. And so I think I've had 200, 300 different pens or pencils in my hand in my lifetime, different ones. And every once in a while, I go into a place and there's a new tool, there's a new pen, there's some new thing, slightly different, and it's slightly more exciting and more, I like it, I start using it, so on and so forth. So that's turning it on me. A tool to take down your master's house. I don't know. Why would I want to do that? And who's my master anyway?
That's too, again, you're really psychoanalyzing the questions, and I love that. But I want to jump ahead because it applies right now. Another thing McLuhan said was, everything we invent extends some humanness. He would say a human sensorium. So knife and fork extends our teeth. Clothing extends our skin. You know, the shutter in a camera is an extension of our eyelid. And, you know, it doesn't have to be tangible. Like philosophy could be an extension of our consciousness. Who knows? Now, your main tool is the pencil or the writing utensil, whether it's a pen or a pencil. What humanness does it extend for you?
It gets what's in my heart, soul, brain, in some place where other people can be exposed to it.
Yeah.
And where I can be exposed to it first, of course, because not that I'm in a hurry, but I'm the first one to see it because I make it.
That's good, Marv. Not that I'm in a hurry. That is good. You know, it's really thorough. It extends my heart, soul, and brain.
I think really, you're being too complimentary here, Gerry.
Yeah, I know. I had one guy. I mean, this is just who I am. That's how I do it. And one guy once, I mean, I've done like hundreds of these for 40 years. And one guy actually started getting mad at me. He says, "Quit pandering to me." You know, I have this tendency to go, "Oh, that's a great word. Oh, that was a great answer." And it's just the way I am. And he says, "I quit doing that."
I've done a few of these Zoom interviews or conferences and so on and so forth. And when I'm all finished, I always think, why am my hands flying around? Why am I talking this way, jerking around? Why can't I just be a nice, smart intellectual? But you have the similar qualities to what I do, but I'm digging it. So I want to know I'm wrong about myself, you know? Am I? I don't know.
No, it's like you're just having fun.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, Marv, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Oh, well, I pick up a book so I can get rid of my worries. And I think worrying's it's not only unhealthy, but it's kind of a waste of time. I don't know if anything good has come, for me at least, out of worry. It's like a lot of jealousy or other human activities that are kind of a waste of time. I think that we're helpless if we worry. We can't help it. I mean, it just happens. We have to push it down if it happens, or let it go out, I guess. But I try not to go to bed worried. I try to change the pattern, go to a different channel, something. You know?
That's good. But what's the difference between worry and concern?
Okay, concern, I think, is constructive. I think if you're concerned about something, you analyze it in a little better frame of mind than if you're worried about something. You know.
Gotcha. So McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like about them. So isn't that a great? So I asked the question McLuhan asked, why do humans ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though artists are broadcasting them to us?
Oh. I'm not sure. I think in many cases, artists present an alternative to so-called reality. And I personally appreciate that newness, that skewed reality that artists that I like, at least, bring into existence. I don't know that I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm not capable.
That was good. I like Marv. I like the word newness. I think artists give us this ability to look anew with new eyes. Do artists have a moral obligation?
No.
Wow. There's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right.
Okay.
Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
Well, the old ideas generate the foundation for the new ideas. I don't know if new ideas are new ideas, except in machines and technology, and I don't know if we can have a new idea about real life, about flesh and blood, heart, soul, brain, morality. I think new ideas are completely in the realm of creating machines and ways of transporting ourselves, or making light, or bringing water, or making rain, or things like that. I don't know if there are new ideas about our existence as human beings until we start to make a different type of automobile, or a different type of airplane, or I don't think we can make a different type of religion. I think they've all been exercised at some point in time.
Right.
They just kind of cycle through again.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's a question I ask is human progress more cyclical or cumulative? And it's sort of like human progress is probably going in circles, but it's also sometimes spiraling up and then sometimes spiraling down. So it's like a cone maybe. So I think that's sort of illustrated what you just said. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
That's something I think about all the time. I wonder, when I see little children, what's going in and what's not, and so on. Two things. One, I remember when I was standing in a doorway, looking out into a room, and people, adults and other children, were in the room. And I know where the house was located. I know that at least one of those people was my mother. And that's the first thing I can think of that I remember, that I saw, that I keep inside of me. And I go, I mean, no one's asked me this question ever before. So there it is.
No, that was good, Marv, because again, it's funny how so many people, their first memory is visual.
Mm.
And so is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, it's inaccurate. I sometimes think memory is what we want it to be as opposed to what it really is. I've had people tell me about incidents in which I was involved or we were involved that I have no recollection of whatsoever, and they carry as a main recollection.
Yeah.
So then, you have memories and you think, this is what happened. And the people that were involved are standing around you, 20 years later, and they go, no, that isn't what happened. Well, yeah, that's what happened. No, that's not what happened. This is what happened. And then I'll think, well, no, that isn't what happened. So what do? Like it goes in there and it starts festering and moving around and so on. Who knows what value there is to memory, except I guess for not even facts are impervious to what happens inside of our skulls and inside of our systems. They get all dismantled and goofed up and so on.
Yeah. Fats Waller says, one never knows, does one?
I love Fats Waller.
Oh my God. Okay, so tell me someone within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who made an impact on you, was like a role model, and what did you get specifically from them?
Okay, within the family?
Yep.
So, like, can it go to aunts and uncles?
Sure, within your immediate family, however you want to define that, what that is. Yeah.
Okay. Two people on my mother's side of the family. Her oldest brother, Bob, my Uncle Bob, and her father, Milton Good. And then a guy that one of her aunts married, whose name was Jess, my Uncle Jess.
So each one of those, what'd you get from Uncle Bob, Milton, and Jess? Just like one.
Bob was an independent. He had his own machine shop. He didn't want to work for anyone. He built his own house. He struggled. He was successful sometimes. He wasn't successful other times. Blah blah blah. And I'd go and see him, and I know that what he was doing wasn't really working out. But I admired him for doing things on his own. My grandfather delivered the mail in Oakland, California during the day. And when we would go and see him on weekends, he'd be sitting in a chair that I own, a Morris chair, with a three-piece suit on, tie, vest, the whole thing. And my Uncle Jess owned a fruit and nut farm in Morgan Hill. And he had his own room where he smoked pipes and cigars. And I would go and he never had anything. He showed me how to put a plant to put one plant attached to another plant. There's a word for it, and I can't remember.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Anyway, he would carefully slice, and then he put it on there, and he'd wrap it around. He says, now off this walnut tree is going to grow this other type of tree, so on and so forth. So these were like lessons in how to comport yourself and sort of what's important and so on. get rid of the family. A person who meant more to me than almost anyone on earth. He died recently, 2 years ago. He's from your part of the world. He's from Ann Arbor. His name was Rick Staling. And I met him at art school. And we slowly became friends. We went to music concerts all the time. We would go see John Fahey, and we'd go see Blue Cheer, and we'd go see Paul Butterfield Band, and we'd go see James Cotton, and blah, 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 blah. And he liked McLuhan, and I liked McLuhan. We studied McLuhan when we were at school. And I moved to Canada. He moved up to Canada later. He moved to the West. I moved to Toronto. I moved back from Toronto. I came out West. And we would see each other 1972 until 2019. We'd see each other almost every week, at least once, maybe more. And the interchange of information, music, motion pictures, he was like a brother I never had. And he's like you. He's interested in things. He's connected to things. He was a good friend of Dr. Demento, Barry Hansen. And he was a good friend of he was in a band in Michigan. He was in a band contest with Question Mark and the Mysterians and lost. Blah, blah, blah. He was a great guy. And
he lost, his band lost.
His band lost to Question Mark and the Mysterians.
That is a high honor. That is,
yep.
Listen to it, Marv. There's 3 people. I'm not like a UFO guy. I'm happy that some people research that. That's fine. It's just not my interest. But there's 3 people on Earth that say they're from another planet who I believe.
Oh.
Sun Ra, Stockhausen, and Question Mark of the Mysterious.
I can't believe those 3 people were presented to me in one sentence.
Right. But they're all great music people. But I believe listening to their music, you think they could be from. But Rick sounds like a great friend. That was beautiful what you said about him, and you really recalled him well. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Yeah, they tried to make me into a Lutheran.
And did you check out?
Yeah, I started falling asleep too much and thinking, what the heck? If this is so important, why is this God guy letting me go to sleep? When they're talking about him. Also,
go ahead.
I walked into the office of the pastor of the church at least once, and he was smoking marijuana. And this is back in the late 50s, early 60s. And I didn't know it was marijuana. I only figured it out later in the 70s when all my friends were smoking marijuana.
That's wild. Oh my God. So, do you pray?
No, I don't. Well, let's put it this way. In short bursts, yeah, I do.
Okay. If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Here's a list of places you can go if you want to go again.
That is a great list.
Yeah. Do
evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil exists, definitely. Absolutely. I bet evil can only exist. Evil can only exist in human beings. Real evil, I think. I don't think evil can exist in animals. I think evil has to exist in a thinking creature.
Yeah, that evokes this question I never ask anymore. But are the laws of nature cruel?
Cruel?
Yeah.
I don't think they're cruel. I think they're the laws of nature. I think, there's a design that we're all part of. And that design is, flexible and change, just like your discussion about that spiral up and spiral down. I think that's the design, and that's what nature's doing. And it's like fish in the sea. They're all swimming around, and right over there is their enemy who might eat them at any moment. But they still swim around, and then the thing comes over and it grabs one, and then everyone else keeps swimming around. I don't know. Is that cruel? I think it's just nature. It's just the way things go. Yeah.
Well, Marv, you must have ESP because you anticipated the next question. It's how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But this one I'm going to set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yes.
JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So the question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you address the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Watts changed my life. Watts, little book, what was it? What was that little book he put out? The something about who you are, or shoot.
Yeah. It's well, there's 3 or 4 of the early ones. One is called The Book, and one is I forgot the other 2, but the wisdom of insecurity, and there's a couple. But go ahead. How did he change your life?
He and the longshoreman philosopher, San Francisco guy, who also wrote little books about who you are and so on. Ed
Ricketts?
No, darn.
Not Gary Snyder.
No, older. Oh man, I should be
Joseph Campbell.
No.
Anyways, we'll think of it.
Anyway,
those 2 guys change your life. How?
They like you're talking about enemies and so on, and they're saying, know who you are, and if you know who you are, you'll be a stronger personality when all the people around you are trying to influence you and trying to steer you one way or another. And if you know who you are, that's, you don't have to get all excited about that and think that you're some, great, smart person, but it'll help you to deal with great, smart people that might try to manipulate you. And they The True Believer. Who wrote The True Believer? That's the guy.
I don't know, but we'll figure it out. I think
okay. He taught me that people that believe things, people that volunteer, some other aspects of the way people go about their lives, you have to watch and be careful. You have to know who you are, and then measure that against what the input is. Don't become, don't fall for fascism. Don't fall for communism. Don't fall for isms. And that was important. And I think Watts had some of that in his book that I can't remember the title of. Here are these 2 monumental tomes that shaped my life, and I can't even remember the information.
That's all right. You remembered what they taught you. That's what's beautiful. Because it's just this. My friend said, you ever think of how much Rolodex space you waste in your head just remembering movie stars' names? It's the same thing with book titles. You don't have to remember every book title and every author. It's what you got from them that's important. And
Yeah.
that resonated. But Marv, back to the question, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy?
I don't know if I have experience in that department. Because of the way that Watson, the true believer, set me up, I almost refuse to consider someone to be an enemy. What good is it? It has no value. It robs my energy. You know, if they're my enemy, I spend time thinking about, you know, how to get vengeance on them or how to harm their lives. And when I don't really care, you know, they.
No, that's smart. So, no, that's really smart. I appreciate that. That's a good answer. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years years later, Faulkner said, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?"
Well, that's where art separates from life. On the stage, it's a spectacle. It's a release from life. Even though it parallels life in some cases, it's a release. It isn't real. It's an invention. It's an invented life. We can identify with some of it, perhaps, but it's invented. And especially motion pictures. Motion pictures are full of deceptions, and full of deceptions that will excite something inside of us. It's like a departure from our everyday lives. And so that's what I think is what becomes interesting. A performance, seeing actors or other people react to some incident or some situation, how they do it, how they carry themselves.
That's good.
It's a
Marv,
replacement for real life.
yeah. Marv, just walk us through briefly how you got to be an artist drawing. You're obsessed, you have this talent and obsession to draw. I love that. And then how you became an animator. Like, did your parents take you to art classes, art museums? What got you to that tipping point where you could go, I'm going to pursue drawing as my career, and then I'm going to pursue animated film? Those two things specifically.
Okay. So, Gerry, that takes me back to one of your earlier questions about the first thing I ever can remember.
Yeah.
And not long after that first thing, I can remember sitting in a room with a kid my age named Mike and his brother, Butch, who drew comic strips.
Yeah.
Amateur comic strips. And he had a comic strip called Mud about World War One. And he drew these soldiers with helmets on, and they were, to my eye, it was fascinating. I saw his hand pass over paper, and these images showed up. That was a pivotal point in my whole life. And so I tried to do it. I'm probably 5 or 6 years old. I'd always draw. I just drew pictures all the time. I never considered it to be a way of making a living until I went to art school, basically. And I can't believe my parents allowed me to go to art school. They knew I drew pictures. I guess they thought, oh, well, he'll go there, he'll fail, and then he'll come back and he'll become a history teacher or something we need, something important, something relevant. Okay, so I go to art school. I went to the Nazi training camp of art, the Art Center College of Design, and that's where I met my pal Rick. Anyway, I took many courses, everything: perspective, life drawing, advertising design, graphics, typography, fashion drawing, all this stuff, and eventually came movie class. They opened up a movie class. Oh man, I got to do this. I want to make movies. This other stuff I don't care about. I want to be a director and walk around in jodhpurs and talk through a megaphone and tell people what to do. All that stuff. So I took those courses and I made a couple of live action movies. And then we had to make a movie to graduate. So I started making this movie about a guy that gets up every morning and brings the sun up. But I needed a stop motion sunrise from a blank horizon. So you just see the sun coming up. Then you can intercut it with him going, up, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I could never get that shot. This is in Los Angeles. The sky's clear there, 364 days a year.
Yeah.
I was there when there was a weird 4 days of clouds. I had to abandon the movie because the deadline was coming up and make a movie to graduate. So my parents wouldn't kill me. I mean, they'd spent all this money. I came from, a lower income family, and I know they put out a lot of loot for me to go here. So I knew how to draw pictures. I understood the basic concept of animation just from watching movies, blah, blah, blah. So I set up a camera, drew some pictures. I had a stupid idea. I did it, got it onto 16 millimeter film. You used to do 8 millimeter films. You probably made all kinds of films. Anyway, I made this movie on a Bolex camera, hand crank. Okay, it's Bambi Meets Godzilla. It comes out. I get an A for the course, even though it's an animated movie and there's, I didn't take any animation classes, blah, 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 blah. I come out of school. I got to make a living. I want to be a director. I go to motion picture companies. Hi, I'd like to be a director. I went to art school and everything. They don't want to hear that. Get out of here. Blah, blah, blah. A guy named John Gerry, who owned a flying rhinoceros production company in Los Angeles, making TV commercials, basically. I called him up. I thought, well, I can at least direct a commercial. It's only 30 seconds long, a minute long. And so I went to see him, and they said, oh, you can't see Mr. Gerry unless you have a resume. Well, I didn't even know what a resume was. And I said, what's a resume? He said, the story of what you've done, blah, 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 blah. So I made a comic strip of this kid out in the desert going, what? Where's Gerry or whatever the hell I did? I don't know what I did. And I was mad. I was upset. And I put it in an envelope and sent it in the mail to him. 4 or 5 days later, this woman calls up and says, Mr. Gerry wants to see you. And I thought, oh no, he's gonna punch me out for sending him this offensive comic. I went to his office. He said, I loved your comic. I can't hire you, but you should make animation. Go see this guy, Frank Terry, Smumbuggy Works, Los Angeles. So I went there, and they hired me immediately to work on big-time commercials and so on, even though I didn't know anything. And I went there and learned how to make animation on the job. And that I fell in love with it. And from then, I just stayed in the animation biz. Loved it.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, Marv, one of my favorite films of all time, I've studied cinema and animation documentaries for over 50 years, is Sing Beast Sing.
Yes.
That
yes.
Is, and Will,
I wish I could hug you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Willie Mambo. Is that how you say his last name? Mambo?
William Bambo.
How do you pronounce the guy who sings the song?
Oh,
Willie
that's the Toledo Monkeys, but Willie Maybon is the actual
Maybon.
singer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Willie Maybon. What a song.
Go back to the thing about machines thinking and so on. No machine on earth is ever going to make a piece of music as good as that. And that isn't even the best blues song. No machine on earth is ever going to do Howlin' Wolf. Ever. You know?
You got that right. That was beautiful. Now we're going to go into your creative process.
Okay.
A screenwriting teacher told me a great film, great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
Ooh. Okay, my intention is to move away from real life, create things with enough enough references to real life that people will stay involved. Now, you make experimental movies. I've made one or two, and I've made some movies that weren't experimental that they claim are. But in experimental movies, it's chaos in a lot of cases, or it's non-representational activity. I tend to go a little more representational, but I don't want to make movies that are extensions of real life that tell people what to do or how to do things or any of that, really. I guess my approach, my intention is to make something that is alternate to reality.
That's good. Marv, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of your viewing audience when you're making your film?
In 2019, I finished my most recent movie, Catalog of Flaws. I've never, ever seen it with an audience, except the first time we showed it at the art school or the film school where I teach. And basically the audience was the people that helped make the movie. So that doesn't count. I've never seen the movie with a neutral audience at a festival, at a theater, and anywhere. And I don't know what I've made. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if I should keep making movies like that. I don't know if some parts of it are just definitely wrong and never do that again, or some are real good and you should, pursue that or look for a thread from something good to make another movie. None of that. And so to me, the audience is very important, even though I don't think about pleasing an audience when I make a movie. I think about making something that will hold their attention. Definitely. I don't want to lose the audience, but I'm not crazy about pleasing an audience. I mean, if you like Sing Be Sing, that isn't an audience pleasing movie, except in some cases. That movie I showed in Korea, and they showed all my movies in Korea back, I don't know when, 2010 something. And they said it's a midnight screening. It's in this theater, and we're going to go there, see your movies. Okay. I walked into the theater. It was full of kids, young people, teenagers, noisy. And I turned around and started walking out. I was in the wrong theater. What are these people doing here? Where's my screening with 12 people in the audience, quiet and reading books or something? And the Korean organizer said, no, this is the theater. Okay. So I go in, they introduce me. Everyone's applauding. I'm lost. I don't know what's going on here. I think I'm being set up. I sit in the audience. Up comes Bambi. Yeah, everyone laughs. Up comes Sing Be Sing. The audience of kids followed every nuance of that movie. Now, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. I'm saying it because they really knew it. They paid attention to everything. I was astounded. You know, it was great. You know, I could have died there and been happy and then go see God and see the list, you know, where I'm going next.
That's like, you get to heaven and God, what do you want God to say to you? Could I get my own VHS copy of Sing Be Sing? Yeah.
Oh, where's the light? Where's the light?
No, we can see it. We can see it. Right. That's good.
Go.
Long live VHS. So,
well, there's this one too. Except I've sold out. They're gone.
Nice. So Michael Apted told me 40 years ago, the great film director.
Yeah.
I said, why do rock video makers feel so obliged to edit fast? He says, because we've learned to take in information faster. Now, most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it really flourished in the 80s with MTV. In fact, Marty Scorsese says, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So I asked this question with a bias. Can humans learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Okay. Yeah, I think people young people, especially right now, take in information faster. Whether that's better or worse in the way of accumulating information, I don't know. Warner Brothers, when they made their crime movies back in the 30s and 40s, they'd cut their picture, screen it, look at it, go, okay, it's ready to go, except they'd send it back to the editors and they would clip one frame off the end and the beginning of every scene to push it along just a little bit faster.
Wow.
And that to me was a lesson. You know, that was great. I like slow movies. You know, I like, like Jim Jarmusch or one of the Finnish Charismakis. You know, they make Man Without a Past or something.
Yeah.
And lovely.
Yeah. Tarkovsky's, or Telebar, the long, slow takes. Yeah.
Yep. And Andrei Rublev is maybe my favorite movie on earth. And that thing has tons of scenes of nothing really happening. And
the hidden ground question, Marv, is can humans literally multitask?
Yeah. I don't know if it's good or bad behavior, but yes.
What do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Not what Herzog said or anthropologist, your hunch.
Okay, that's a good one. One thing about cave people, they I don't know what kind of language they had. We already went over that and so on. But those folks saw this big ball of fire come up, rising up every morning. What was their concept of that? And did they think, is it going to happen tomorrow again? And for how many generations did they contemplate that? Anyway, I don't know if there's a solution. But anyway, the cave artists, that stuff, African art, Pacific Ocean art, I love. They get down to the essence. There's no decoration. It's, here's the spine, here's the leg, here's the leg. Here are the horns. Were those real animals, or were those interpretations of real animals? Or was the light so low in those caves that they couldn't draw it very well? Like if it had better light, would the animal drawings have been, like Tiepolo or something like that? I don't know. Certainly Picasso robbed those people blind. And he knew better.
You'll love this one. I said to this guy recently, what was the motive of the cave artist? And he said, to keep the people in the caves.
Hmm.
You know, like, come over here and look at my cave paintings. Now you got to stay here and look at them.
I don't know if they. I wonder if they were considered artists
Oh
or.
no, that's again the one of the greatest McLuhan lines. The Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can.
Whoa. Okay.
You know,
All
they're
right.
not like, oh, I'm gonna go do art now. They just did everything, and it was just what you did. You know, that's
Yeah.
like culinary art. Culinary art is fixing food. So what's the difference? So you've accomplished a lot in your life. How would you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What's the highest, middle, and third in that regard of your accomplishments?
Luck, of course. I'm with
Luck's
Bukowski.
what's
I,
that?
Bukowski makes this great story about meeting some woman at a poetry reading or something like that, and she thinks he's she knows his poetry, his skill, his art, his so on. He gets up on the to quote, to talk to the people and to read his poetry and so on. And while he's doing that, he looks out in the audience and he sees this woman sit down next to a guy, and then halfway through his reading, they both get up and leave. So he says, "That's luck, and I'd rather have luck than skill."
Yeah, I get it. You'd rather have the luck. That's good.
Yeah.
Good Bukowski story. So, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction.
T.S. Eliot says that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Yikes. Well, it has to be English for me. I'm sorry. Or a little bit of French, maybe, but
What form is your inner consciousness in?
what form?
Yeah. See, it's easy. The question is what language is your inner dialogue in? It's
Yep.
not literally what spoken language is your inner dialogue in. It's more like metaphorically what language is your inner dialogue in.
Well, okay. Probably something that comes in chunks.
Oh,
It,
chunks. I've never had that answer.
yeah,
That's chunks.
it comes in big blocks of stuff, and then it crashes into each other. And it doesn't come as little pieces. It comes in big
Yeah,
blocks.
that's back to pattern recognition. It's
Yeah.
these chunks. Okay, George Manupelli started the Ann Arbor Film Festival 60 years ago in March. It's 60. That's half the length of the basically the history of cinema is about 130 years. So the festival's about half the length of the history of the medium. George's mantra was ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. I know it's both and it depends, but is art making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture or technology is dominant?
Say the last part again.
Yeah. It is art making more self-expression, or
Mm-hmm.
is it more the artist is a vehicle for whatever culture or technology is dominant?
Okay. Well, I mean, I love Cecil Taylor, and I can understand exactly what he's saying. I mean, he's at the keyboard. He knows what he's doing. He knows where the notes are. He knows what they do. He knows what music is. He knows what rhythm is. He knows all that. But something comes in, does it come from inside or outside? Or is it both? I don't know. But I don't think he could explain his work. I don't think I've ever heard him explain. He might put people on or some way or other about his stuff, but I think he liked to play. When he played, that was enough. And the same with Monk. You know, what more do you need? I played it. You know, there.
That's Robert Frost. They asked him, could you explain that poem, Mr. Frost? And he said, you mean you want me to say it worse?
That's good.
But I'm getting at like Ginger Baker, the drummer for Cream.
Yeah.
He said, where'd you get your drum sound? He says, I was in London when they were bombing us. So the bombs would go off, boom, 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 boom. So that's where he got his drum sound, you know.
Okay.
And James Brown's drummer said the same thing. He was in Ohio, and there was a factory on one side of his house, and a train track on the other. So he invented funk drumming, like boom, ticka, boom, ticka, you know.
Yeah.
So they're just like vehicles. So the bottom line question here is, can art making be egoless?
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, what's the guy's name that he was a postman in Washington, D.C., and he had a garage and he built this sort of this thing of heaven out of the silver paper inside of gum wrappers and so on, tinfoil.
Yeah.
He had no ego. He built that thing. It took him years and years. I don't know if he ever saw anyone looking at it.
Yeah,
he just did it because he wanted to.
Yeah, that's the history of outsider artist.
Yeah.
Like Henry Darger, there's a lot of them. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. Is perception reality?
Yeah. How each one of us perceives, what each one of us sees, smells, tastes, is our own reality. Definitely, it's almost never shared, except in general terms. But you know, it's the old thing. If you show 10 people the same flower bed and then ask them what they saw, you won't get 10 same answers. You'll get, you know, it'll be different.
Yeah. Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
I guess I try to stay away from that.
You'll love this one. Sunra said, the impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done in the world and the world didn't change. Marv, tell me one major element of your creative output, your creative process, your creativity that's changed in one major element that stayed the same in the decades you've pursued it.
Well, the one thing that stayed the same is when I make something that's okay, when I make important art that I'm paying attention to, like a movie, it takes a lot of time and energy and so on. I'm sticking to my guns. I don't even really want to make sense. I just want to hold an audience and create the illusion that things make sense, or create the illusion that maybe there's something, this will pay off, or maybe not. That's consistent from the very beginning. Inconsistent, or perhaps an improvement, simplicity. I think I found ways to make difficult projects easier just by doing them over and over again and examining the process before jumping in and trying to get an approach together that will make it a little bit easier to do than in the past. Now, you don't want it to be too easy because it'll be seen as utterly simple, and then the power of what you do, I think, is lost. I can now tell you a story that proves that statement wrong. A good friend of mine, Paul Dreesen, who's made more animated short movies than anybody else on earth, he made a motion picture called Home on the Rails. And it's a house on rail, and there's a railway tracks running through the house. And there are two doors. And a lady is sitting on a chair on the left side of the screen, on one side of the screen. And you hear the train whistle, and she gets down off the chairs and she goes toward the door and she disappears. And in the time it would take her to walk to the door, there's nothing, no animation. Then she reappears at the door, opens the door, turns, heads for the other door, disappears, and reappears, opens the other door, and a train goes through. And everybody in the audience that makes animated movies cracks up because the guy has made this so simple to do by simply not doing any animation. It's funnier without animation than with animation. So
that's beautiful. That's sort of what Duchamp did by making art non-retinal. We think art's supposed to be an eye trip. He made it more a head trip. So that's what Paul was doing. That's beautiful illustration. And I got to say, you're my hero because I'm going to use this line. I want to create art that creates an illusion that I'm making sense. I think that's what McLuhan said when he said, I'm a put-on artist.
Yeah. Except we're still talking about him today.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have gone out of fashion, but he didn't. What he had to say is more relevant now than maybe it was then. Because now we can see it.
Yeah, and then you'll love this one. This guy who's written a book on McLuhan in film. Just about 3 days ago, I said, if God exists, what do you want God to say to you after you die? He said, I want God to say, quit reading McLuhan so much. Okay, Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're usually taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness that you've turned into a strength.
Drawing fast.
Oh, nice.
How
is that a strength?
Well, okay. I hate putting this into words. It's like, what do they say? Don't put your mouth on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. I'll adjust the story. When I used to travel and I'd go to hotels or motels or whatever the place stayed, and there would be either guest books or just a notepad on it. You know, when they used to have notepads at motels and hotels and so on, I'd turn the pages back, 20 pages and make a little drawing as fast as I could of a dog or a horse or something with something coming out of its mouth. Not anything nasty because maybe a child would find it. And in a guest book, I'd make drawings and so on fast. And over time, I've seen those drawings, or someone will tell me about seeing them or something like that. This is wrong. This is improper. That's how it started. I leave fast drawings in pads of Post-its in people's offices and so on. And I'll go back and I'll see those drawings up on the wall, and the people love them. And I know that it took me 10 seconds, 30 seconds to do that. And when I see them after I forgot that I drew them, I go, whoa, that's pretty cool. And I think I've been able to take some of that and put it into my important work. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, because what you're doing is, you know, it's like musicians tell me they get really good at it. You're really good at it. But then when you're doing it, you don't want to think. You just want to get into the flow, into the groove of it, and not like, well, what am I going to do now? It's just like, because you're in that situation, like, oh, I only have a few seconds to make this little joke for this person. Then you're in this. That's really well put. What's the most significant difference between women and men, physical aside?
I'd say generally speaking, and there, you know, this is a porous reaction. Men are more direct than women.
Yeah. Marv, we got about, oh, go ahead. You get you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay. Marv, we got about 10 more minutes. Can you go a little more than 10, or you got to stop in 10?
I have, you know, I'm cool if you are.
Okay, we'll go about another 15 if you can. Okay. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
Well, anger is what got me a visit with John Urey, and then a connection to my animation career, right? I was angry and I ground out this horrible thing and sent it. I guess if the anger, the energy, the positive energy coming off of a negative anger is something that we can, you know, it's like a fire, you know, and the fire's bad, but the heat's good. So, yeah, I don't operate very well when I'm angry. I try to cut down my anger as much as possible. I fly off the handle, and then I quiet down quickly.
That was a good answer. It was like, anger can be a productive emotion when you need a career in the animation world. Okay. You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Marv, but one creates what one resists. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated in the religion which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So what's your thoughts on this? You create what you resist, or one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
Jeepers. Well, I like bad behavior, as long as it's not destructive, as long as no one gets hurt. And I like putting bad behavior into my movies. I don't believe in it, but I sometimes think it's funny. Yikes. I mean, is this an answer?
No, that's a fine answer. Let's move on. How do you find peace of mind?
Oh. Well, I don't know if I ever have peace of mind. I'm always wanting to do something. My friend Victoria and I, we said, She's busy all the time. I'm busy. I'm pretty much busy all the time. I said, let's have a day off. We never have days off. We did Monday to Sunday. We do, our pattern is exactly the same. We both sort of work for ourselves, or we're doing things. She's always working. I'm doing things. So let's have a day off. We'll just have a day off. And we picked out a day on the calendar, and so on and so on. And then here at this house, some water system went down. So on our day off is when all these people came to get everything fixed, and it was worse than any working day. And then we had to go back to work again. We couldn't afford to reschedule a day off. Anyway, I think peace of mind would come if I could just sit down and just let a day, just waste a day, waste it. You know? Never do anything I had to do.
Yeah. That's when people say, what do you do? And I go, I do nothing effectively. Can you forget to die?
I don't think death's any of our business. No. We're all going to deal with it. And so even though the older you get, I'm older than you are, born a few days ahead of you, a few days in a few years, but now people are dying. People my age and people I know who are older than I am are dying. So death's in my consciousness continually, but I don't fear it, and I don't know if there's anything, it's going to get you, that's it.
Yep. Good. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I've answered this question before. I don't know what I said. Oh, well. I think I'd say have patience. That what's going on now is relevant to the rest of your life, but be patient. Be patient. I guess.
Like that. My mom taught me that too. She said, God, give me patience and give it to me now. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Over, always.
Why?
It's just easier. It's just.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Showed great courage when faced with simple matters.
Oh, nice. And they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Nutmeg.
And they want to have a color ink other than black for some of the pages. What color?
Blood red.
Nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Oh, God. That's tough. That's tough. Oh, you stumped me.
Okay, that's all right. We can move on. Tell me something. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Never had and never won?
Yeah, it's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Oh, the hard part's good. Good, and I never had it, never want it. Oh, okay. Undeniable good looks.
Oh, that's a great answer. I've never had that. Most
Oh,
people say fame, money, and heroin.
okay.
Hey, just a few more, Marv. This has been really fun and I really appreciate it. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Try to sink into the vomit, I guess. Reminds me of, what was that was that a Lena Wertmüller movie where the guy hides in the cesspool breathing through a straw so the Nazis wouldn't capture him?
It sounds like it. And that's funny you brought her up because she just passed away last week.
Yeah, that's too
Yeah.
bad.
What a great director, man.
Yep.
So refreshing because that whole 70s slew of great directors were all males, and then she came along. Beautiful.
Had a great director name too, Lena Wertmüller.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, whatever she says, I'll do it.
So Joseph Boyes, the great artist, said, make the secrets productive. Lou Welsh, beat poet, ad man, said, guard the secrets, constantly reveal them. But it was Thornton Wilder in 1928. He said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. Marv, you laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm grateful, not insinuating you haven't already answered this, but what's it really all about for you?
That question is answered slowly as I move through life. It goes back to like the first question you asked me, and it has a lot to do with love, a love of life, giving love and getting love. I know this sounds simple-minded and stupid, but it's the one thing that triumphs over almost everything else. I mean, you apply it to what you do, you apply it to the few people in your life that you truly love, and if you get it back, there's nothing that can beat that. And if you learn to give it without wanting it to come back, that's very strong, I think.
That's beautiful, Marv. It really resonates with Nature Boy, the song that Eden Abe wrote. He used to hang out here in Venice, California. He was like the first hippie, and he wrote the song that Nat King Cole made big. And it was like, to give love and to get love is the key to life, you know.
Yeah,
To
it's
be
a
loved. Yeah, it's really beautiful what you
cliche, but
said.
it works. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it works.
Well, that's why Marshall McLuhan named one of his books From Cliche to Archetype.
All right.
That it really became. So we're just almost done. There's 5 quick Alan Watts questions, just in a few words off the top of your head. Who started it all?
Who started it all?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the Lumiere brothers.
Are we going to make it?
Some of us are, yes.
Where do we put it?
into the next generation.
Nice. Who's cleaning it up?
That's a horrible thing. In the next generation.
Is it serious?
It's as serious as life.
Nice. Or as James Brown says, serious as cancer.
Yeah, serious as cancer is a good one.
Okay, 2 more questions, Marv. This has been truly enlightening. I love it. And again, I had so much fun because anybody who can make the film Sing Be Sing is top of the heap in my book.
Well, it's been fun because anyone who likes Sing Be Sing is one of my friends forever.
What's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
Ooh. Okay. I guess even though I despise it all, diversity, access to the creative output of more different people on Earth than ever before.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't come into it. That just the fact that we have access to it, easier access to it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Last question, Marv, for now is I hope our discussion can continue forever. What gives you the most optimism?
I don't know. Spring?
That's a good answer. Well, you know where I got these. The first and last question, you might be interested. The first question is, what's the best thing for a human being? That's from Wilhelm Reich. And the answer was other people. And then at the end of his life, they asked Groucho Marx, what gives you the most optimism? And he said, other people.
Wow.
So it's been a pleasure and a joy. Thank you so much, Marv.
Thank you, Gerry. I mean, I looked you up. I know what you do. I know where you're coming from and all that. And I'm honored to be, that you took time out of your life to talk with me. So thank you. Yeah. Good.
Over and out. Thank you, Marv Newland. It's really been fun.
Okay. Later.